Hello. We need these, actually. We do, don't we?
We certainly do.
Yeah, this...
It's a hard life out here in Barbados.
I like that you said that. It's a tough life. We gotta, someone's gotta do it. I know you're gonna be disturbed by the sound of the waves as they crash onto the shore. I apologize. It's not a very nice sound, when you've got Aaron Finch alongside and he's, regaling you with stories. This is not your job to regale us with stories, it's just to have a chat.
We're here to have a chat.
Yeah, normal chat. Aaron, thanks for doing this, by the way.
My pleasure, anytime.
Yeah, Colac.
Yeah.
You don't know what I'm talking about. He does.
Yeah.
Where is it?
2 hours west of Melbourne. It's a small country town. It's generally about, well, when I was growing up, maybe 15,000 people. Dairy farms, abattoir, farming kind of area. It's an area where a couple of generations of my family are from. It's a big sporting country town. There's a lot of places in the country in Australia are. A lot of the community revolve around local sporting clubs, whether it be AFL in the winter, cricket clubs in the summer. They were the only two main sports, really. There wasn't a huge amount of soccer or basketball or anything growing up. It was, if you didn't play those two, then you were...
Okay.
It was kind of, you were looked at a bit differently because there just wasn't many other options when I was growing up.
All right. So no rugby league and rugby union?
Nothing, no, not in Victoria generally at that point.
Right.
It was big AFL. They had probably whenever the Melbourne Storm come into the NRL, that's when rugby league started getting a bit more traction in Victoria.
Okay. Yeah, I wondered about that. I'm going to chat to you, Victorian, and I thought, there'll be a whole lot of sports, not just a couple actually, and I suppose it then follows because I was trying to work out why cricket. So did you play footy, as in
AFL?
Yeah.
Yeah, growing up.
Yeah.
That was probably my one real passion when I was young. That was probably a more realistic dream, I guess, being a country kid from that part of Victoria in Australia.
Yeah.
No one had played cricket for Australia in that area. So, I mean, you always aspired to it, but you never thought it was possible.
Okay. You can hand them over, it's fine. Thank you.
Just didn't want to ruin the video.
No. This doesn't ruin the video. This
makes the
the
video.
Oh yeah, enjoy, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks, appreciate it. Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
Look at that. Yeah. As I said, somebody's got to do it. I'm sorry.
That's good.
It has to be me. Yeah.
Who was it? Why always me?
Balotelli.
Balotelli.
Yeah.
Why always me?
That's quite good, actually.
Good timing too.
Excellent timing. Yeah. They'll be there. We'll keep sipping on them as we go. You can grab a drink yourself. You can sip and sort of enjoy the background and the chat.
Pretend like you're here.
Yeah. Wish you were here. Okay, and then I've got to go with sort of heroes, inspiration. One, to play the game cricket.
Yeah.
And as is the case with many, I suppose, you just kind of start and then it leads down a path, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I had two older brothers. My oldest brother, no interest in sport at all. He was very much an academic. And then my second brother, 3 years older than me, loved sport, any kind of sport. I loved footy, cricket, fishing. He left school quite young to be a plumber.
Right.
He's still doing that today. And I always just wanted to play with him. He was always good for his age groups, and I guess just following him around, I was always playing. If he was playing under 17s on a Saturday as a 14-year-old, I was also playing as an 11-year-old, I guess, and that was the same case for footy, for cricket. I'd always pack my kit in the back of the car on a Saturday morning in case somebody didn't turn up.
Yeah.
And I'd run fine leg to fine leg and did not have a care in the world. It was brilliant, actually. And he hated the fact that I was playing with him.
Yeah.
He would never let me play with him at school or anything like that, but it was quite cool. And inevitably, as a lot of junior sporting teams, people just don't turn up on Saturday mornings. And,
for one reason or another.
Exactly, and I was always there waiting, and that went right along. So that was a big part of it. My first memories of playing cricket, though, was with my pop in the backyard of my nan and pop's place. He was the first ever person that I saw hit the ball up and down on the edge of a bat, and that blew my mind as like a 4 or 5, 6-year-old. I can't remember the exact time, but I can still remember it to the day. It just blew my mind that somebody could do that, and I remember going away and just practicing that for hours, and then obviously had the ball on the string attached to the basketball line, and just used to knock bats on that for hours, which annoyed the hell out of my neighbours.
Oh wow! So. I find that quite interesting because you've gone back to the first memory you have.
That's my first ever memory of cricket.
Yeah, and I want you to skip right up, right, to now, and the game and what it's become and what you've had out of it. Just retired.
Yeah.
Now kind of sit with us in the comms box, and what you might have sort of imagined along the way, but looking at it sort of down the lens backwards, if you know what I mean. So just speak about that as an observation, if you've kind of had a chance to look or think about it.
It's probably something that I've never really thought about, because I think as a player you get so engrossed in what's happening right now. And that goes from, I think the first time I ever represented Victoria at underage level, it was under 12s, and that was, from then on you're almost in a system where all you're looking at is your own performance, and you're comparing yourself to others. You're just trying to be the best that you can be. So it's actually a really good question. I've never really been one to sit and reflect, and probably since retiring, that's one thing that I've said that I want to do more, is probably look back and appreciate the things that I was able to achieve personally as a team, some of the friendships that you make, the relationships that you have along the way. More, because I was never very good at appreciating the moment, right? Because you're always looking on to what's next, and the way that cricket evolved over probably the last 10 years, it's gone quicker than any other time in the game, I imagine, with how much is played now, how many different tournaments there are. You're playing for Australia one day, then you're playing for a franchise 3 days later in a different country on a different continent. You're always just constantly moving, I think you just get into the cycle of never sitting down, whether it's with friends, with family, over a beer or a wine or something, and just reflect at the time and appreciate some pretty cool things that you've done. So it's a really good question. Maybe we can do another one of these down the track, and I could give you a better answer.
Give me a better answer? Hey, so here you go. He owes us one answer to one question. Might be a bit, protracted in terms of what the answer might be. Here's another question. Yeah, that's a good idea. It's a bit warm here. So yeah, it's a good idea. Keep it in the sand, I think. Close by. Here's another question, which I hear asked of other sportsmen. It's kind of along the same lines, but what does cricket mean to you? Do you?
Well, it's given me so much, and I think the one thing that you always go back to is your first memories of the game, and your absolute love for the game in its purest form, when you've got no preconceived ideas about how it should be played. You're trying to make as many runs as you can, you're trying to get as many wickets as you can, you're having as much fun as you can. And then the more serious it gets, the less fun it becomes, and the more you start, or probably the more you take that side of it for granted, because it's given me so much. It's allowed me to meet so many people, travel the world with my family, and I met my wife probably halfway through my international journey. So then to play the second half of my international career, I guess, bit more than half with her a long time, and then to play the end of my career with a little one and be able to travel the world with them and just do some really cool things that it means the world actually to be able to make a living out of it. It's literally the best job in the world, and now I think we've probably got the second best job in the world. We get to travel there and watch cricket and talk about it and not have the pressure of performance. There's different kinds of pressures sitting in the comm box, but it's all pretty cool.
Yeah, okay. I'll take you to playing. You're not long off the field, so these are all still fresh memories. A couple of times you held on to what is, I suppose you'd say, pinnacle in any sport. You win a World Cup, that's the pinnacle, right? And a couple of times you've done that. Talk me through that and tell me not so much what it means to you, but more, go through how that happens and when it happens, how aware you are from planning to kind of winning it and what that means. And sometimes, I'll give an example of what I'm asking. So you say, I want to run a 10K in 35, 40 minutes. And you plan it and you train and you do whatever. And then you kind of get it done.
Yeah.
And at the end of that, without thinking, there is that reflection.
Yes.
Right? So for you...
Yeah, they're both very different. The 2015 ODI World Cup and the 2021 T20 World Cup, they're both the career highlights for me. Both very, very different though, and I'll tell you why. The first one, I was just a younger player in the team, opening batter, not too many cares in the world. You just turn up and you're trying to smack it, not thinking anything else but get as many runs as you can for the team, play as well as you can, and not having any care about what goes on around the team, the I guess the politics within a team, which I was never into in any form. So you're just so naive to a lot of things, which is so cool. But also playing in Australia, and we're probably the best team in the world at the time. We had an unbelievable squad of players. I mean, you just look at the players who didn't play now. In majority of our tournament, there were some seriously, Pat Cummins, Mitch Marsh, George Bailey, Xavier Doherty, they were the four that didn't play, and they were incredible in their own right. But with that side come an extra layer of pressure as well, the expectation that you win your home World Cup, everything's in your favour, you're playing on grounds that we're all in good form at the time, so that was so special, but almost a relief as opposed to, can we win the World Cup? Yes, we've won it. Whew, thank God we did that. Whereas the T20 World Cup, when nobody gave us a chance, that was just, we're going and having a crack.
All right.
And to be on the other end of it, where you're doing all the planning, both
as captain,
you're doing all the planning for every game, but you're planning for 2 years out. You're almost working back from the World Cup, and you're planning series, both T20 and ODI series, how you're going to get your best 11 to that final. And with that comes some times where you probably compromise a few series here and there, because and at the time that's hard to stomach, because the public then got to get on your back because they're saying, well, Australia should win that series. But you can't just go out and say, right, this is our plan. You don't want to outline that to everyone. So we had a huge amount of confidence within our group, but there was no one from the outside that gave us any chance of making it through to the semi-finals, let alone winning it. So that was a really special one for that reason. We were such a tight-knit unit that the COVID bubble and the restrictions that we had at the time probably played into our hands a little bit, because it just made us all even tighter than what we were, and that was already a very close group. So you're eating your 3 meals a day together, you're celebrating together, you're playing golf together, you're just hanging out 24/7, And that was a different feel because there was no pressure, there was no expectation. It was just an unbelievable quiet confidence within our group, almost a why not us? Why not us mentality? Someone's got to win it.
Yeah.
Why not us?
Fair enough.
Does that make sense?
It does sort of. I can't speak from a knowledge base. Do you know what I mean? I can't
But
speak from
they're
a...
so different World Cups.
Yeah, like, you know, and the reason I say that is it kind of leads to my next question. Within Australian teams, there is a lot of knowledge with regard to the winning of World Cups when you turn up.
Yeah.
And when you speak of 2015, there's the teams that have gone before that have done it, and you know, serial winners really, and so there's almost no excuse, right?
Yeah.
And so in your DNA and kind of your makeup, we all think, looking from the outside, they kind of just know how to do it. They just do it.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting to me for you to say, well, you know, there's this expectation and there's a bit of pressure.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. You know, I want to know how winners deal with that pressure. There are many teams who have this pressure who don't manage to get there.
Yeah. Well, there's the first time that I've felt it from the outside was the last World Cup that just went, the 50 over World Cup in India, and being in the commentary box, being around the studio where people are talking about the World Cup all the time, and Australia lose the first two matches, and I'm thinking, well, backs against the wall now, but everybody else is saying Australia's still the team to beat. Australia's still the team to beat, and I was thinking to myself at the time, I had a lot of confidence in the team, but they couldn't afford a misstep, and they're playing some seriously good teams along the way. And I thought, I actually thought this at the time, why does everybody else still expect Australia to win? And everyone was almost expecting India to falter at some point when they were playing unbelievable, flawless cricket right throughout the World Cup. And it's because we've done it before, and it comes back to what you're saying, there's an expectation from everybody else. So that pressure then translates onto the opposition. Wow, we're playing Australia today, it's a World Cup. How are we going to go about this?
Yeah.
And then you've got the total opposite within the group, where you find a way to take the result out of the equation. So the one thing that weighs people down is the pressure of the result. It's the winning of the match. That's the only thing that makes people nervous. Yes, you've got to do your job throughout, but you either win or you lose. Whether you make a duck and win doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you get 100 and lose, you still feel ordinary. So I think Australians have got a great ability to separate both of those things. One, doing your job. Two, if I do my job, the result will take care of itself. So you never get weighed down with the emotion of the win or the loss.
Right.
You understand that when you're playing against the best in the world consistently, the opposition's allowed to play well also. But if everybody just does their own job and doesn't worry about the result, then some seriously good things can happen, because then you free your mind up, and then you don't get weighed down with, I can't make a mistake now. Because if you're playing a regular bilateral series, I might make this decision, but am I going to make that decision now? It's a World Cup final.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not worried about the situation because I'm not thinking about the win or the loss. So to take that out of your mind it's incredibly hard to do, because everyone says play like there's nothing on the line. But deep down you know that there is. But the ability to put that out of your mind and just focus on your job is an incredibly powerful thing.
Are you taught that as Australians? Are you taught that?
No, I don't think you're taught it, but I think it's just the language that's constantly used. Maybe we are taught it subconsciously. Maybe, yeah.
See what happened there?
Yeah.
I like that.
But it's just the language that's used all the time. Like that's never, we have to win today.
Yeah.
That's never. It's never, we have to win, or what if we lose?
Yeah.
It's, right, do your job.
Right.
So by doing that, by having that kind of language, you automatically change your mindset and free it up more, I guess.
Right. Nice, man. you hear that. You hear different things from different Australian guys who've done really well, and it comes out just slightly differently all the time. And I guess it's because of each one's interpretation of how, you know, you all go about it.
Yeah.
You know, what, like you say, this subconscious, maybe sometimes subliminal, sometimes it hears what's said, and how each one absorbs that is slightly differently.
Yeah.
But it kind of ends up in going in the same direction.
Yeah,
and
so
the same outcome, you know?
Well, it's fascinating because it's like social media, isn't it? You can read 100 great comments and one poor one, but you hang on to that poor one. And some players are like that if they read the news, if they read articles around what's been written about them, they hold on to it, and that can't be healthy.
No.
So it's also the ability to find the right balance in that regard as well, to find the balance of using it for motivation, but then also holding on to the good stuff and not just letting the one negative comment, I guess, take down your mindset and really hold on to that and hurt you.
Tell me how cricket and culture, Australian culture, some people were saying, what? You know, and I suppose sport, Australian, and perhaps I should define culture. I would define it as just kind of ways of life, of doing things, of kind of getting through your days, and, you know, and relating to each other as a society, just generally.
Yeah.
And sport / cricket, how close, how far away it is in the way just people live generally.
What do you mean exactly?
I mean, so many teams will speak of turning up at the airport and being sledged by the guy who's kind of stamping your passport at immigration. And that's true, that actually happens. Like,
That's good banter.
it is good banter. But within banter is sort of semblances of truth, because the fact that they want Australia to beat you is true, right? And the fact that they're being competitive is probably innate. They are competitive and they want to win. So that's not just kind of tossed out from nowhere. And is that an everyday thing at home? Like,
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's competition, and it's from an early age, I think, and it's just a part of growing up in quite a sporty country, I guess, where a lot of things, like I was saying earlier about the country sport and country towns revolving around what club you play for, and competitiveness is right there in all things, I reckon. And
look at me, just smiles as it says that. Like, you can't stop yourself.
That's one thing that frustrates me about sport.
I know what you're going to say.
Because we talked about this yesterday. It's one thing that frustrates me about junior sport is, well, we don't keep track of wins and losses. We don't keep score. Why? It annoys me, because you play sport to win. And what was your comment? You think that it breeds
mediocrity, non-trying.
And it takes the emotion out of it.
Yeah, takes everything out of it.
And then I think that people fall away from falling in love with a game, because the emotion of winning and losing is what it's about, I think. And that's why you support professional teams in whatever sport it might be, cricket, rugby, football, soccer, because it means so much to you. So I think that you need to learn that. And I've got an almost 3-year-old, and she is as competitive
as you,
as I am, and as my wife is. And I get in trouble a little bit because I don't let her win enough.
Oh, I like it. What is one thing? Yeah, there'd be many things, obviously. What is one thing that many would not know about you, or even be able to assume about you, that you're really passionate about? Not in cricket, maybe not even in sport. I suppose it could be, but time to delve into? So maybe I give an example. I know something about. You see, we're sitting with Chad. I ask a lot of questions. I know that breakfast is your favorite meal.
Oh yeah.
You love a good breakfast.
Yeah.
If you had a breakfast, you probably don't need another meal, as in you'll have a good one. If you
Yeah.
could choose one meal, that's the one you choose, right?
Every day of the week.
Yeah.
By far my favourite.
Right, and you could have it in the morning or in the middle of the day or whatever. You could have it any
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah.
There you go. I know that about you. But what are you passionate about?
It's a good question because I think playing professional cricket for almost 20 years, I probably didn't take enough opportunity to study or do anything else. I put a lot of eggs into one basket and got lucky actually.
Well done.
I wouldn't advise it. I would not advise it.
Nobody would advise anyone that.
No.
Yeah.
And so I probably haven't done as much stuff that as I would have liked in terms of for myself. I think you spend a lot of time. As an athlete, you're very selfish in one regard, but you're also quite unselfish in others. And I think since retiring, I've probably spent as much time away, which is not ideal. I retired to spend a bit more time at home, but it is a bit different. Yeah, I don't know. There's not one thing that jumps out. I do when I'm at home. I love being at home.
Right.
I don't venture out a huge amount when I'm at home. I don't venture out a huge amount when I'm on tour either. But
Yeah. Yeah. You don't know. That sounds like that's the answer. That's a good answer, I think.
it's not a good answer.
It is. Well, I'll tell you what it says to me. Just like when I asked about the game, that there's still some sort of exploration and reflection with regard to all that's happened to you through the game and how it's gone and whatever that you haven't done that you probably need to do.
Yeah.
And will do because I asked the question, but also there is exploration required in that regard. To sort of ask yourself the questions: what do I want? What do I want to do? What do I like to do? What am I passionate about? And whatever. And how old are you? You're only young.
37.
Oh, there you go. 37. That's not old. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
There is time. There
Goes
will
faster,
be.
doesn't it?
It does go. Don't you worry about it. It goes fast. In the game, having played for this guy, he's. Woo. Do you know how many teams you've played for? Like franchise teams? So, of course, you played for Australia.
Yeah.
And you played for Melbourne,
Yeah.
right? Victoria, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm not really counting those teams.
Okay.
I'm talking franchise teams.
Franchises. Well, there's 9 IPL. 9 IPL. 2 county. So that's 11. Surrey and Yorkshire. Played for the Auckland Aces in New Zealand competition. Played for the Rahuna Royals in Sri Lankan Premier League back in like 2011. San Fran Unicorns. Obviously Melbourne Renegades. I was contracted to the 100 for 2 years, but it didn't go ahead because of COVID. That might be it.
Yeah, 16 I think it is.
Yeah.
That's what I have as a number.
16, yeah. Yeah, that'll be right.
That'd be all right.
Plus you throw in like Australia A, Victoria.
Yeah. I didn't want to throw them in because and then it makes
It's a long crick info bio, isn't it?
Yeah, but it doesn't quite it's not quite right. It's like, okay, those are just, you're kind of warming up for the test matches, or you're seeing if you're a youngster good enough to get in, or, all of that stuff. So, academy teams, all of that.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. and it kind of leads quite nicely to this question, which is that what would you like to see change in the game of cricket? Where do you think the game is? Our game. This is what we do.
I think the game's in a really delicate place right now. I think it's almost to the point that something has to give.
In what regard?
Just the pure amount of franchise cricket that's being played, and the I guess the balance of power between the nations that provide. Well, I guess, how do I say this? Obviously, the big three, Australia, India, England, control a lot of the world money, and then I think that then forces some other nations down the franchise route and prioritising franchise over international cricket. So that's why I think it's in a really delicate place at the moment, of the danger of franchise cricket becoming the forefront of the game and then international cricket becoming second.
And so does that mean you would prefer that not to be?
I'd prefer international cricket to become the priority.
Oh, why?
For all nations, and I understand that it's not financially possible for some players who can make 50 times as much playing franchise cricket as they do if they played international cricket. I think franchise cricket allows players a lot more flexibility. Personally, it allows them to control their own schedule more and more. But I think if you go away from that, then it will become a model where international cricket is fit in around domestic T20 tournaments.
Right.
And there's just so many that keep popping up. So that the window would get compressed more and more and more. And I think eventually that would force international cricket into such a small window of availability that the priority then might not be there at all. What's your views on it?
My view, a long time ago I said that I think it's kind of the wrong way around anyway, like the game has been for the longest time in the form that we know it, being that really international cricket as the pinnacle kind of needs to be a bit more scarce. And in reality, that's kind of how it works. So you look at any other sport. So if you look at rugby, look at soccer.
Play your club football with
you play
an international break.
Correct. That's how now cricket might need to create a bigger window as the international breaks. But it's probably, and this is not a developed thought, it's just kind of, as a spur of the moment as you go along, and with the various conversations we've had about this in the background, just as guys chatting and having drinks and stuff, as we're doing here, I just think maybe those windows for cricket would have to be bigger, right?
Yeah.
But then there is no encroaching, there's nobody getting in the way of anybody else, and there's no fighting for whatever it has to be agreed upon in terms of, one, there's a climate thing where you have, the world doesn't work with one sort of calendar because of the climate. So it's cold in one place and it's warm in another. So that actually allows us two windows,
Yeah, the problem that you're facing there is when they're privately owned. Either tournaments and franchises, or a board runs it but franchises are privately owned. Everyone wants more.
Yeah, and I think that's human nature. So
So then finding that balance and saying to the IPL, no, that's your window. You fit your competition into that, and then South Africa, that's your window for your T20 comp, and then Australia, there's your Big Bash window, and there's no compromising around it. That's it, and then no one else is allowed play. It's incredibly hard to do the fixturing as it is. Let alone trying to keep everybody happy, taking something away that people have already got.
Yeah, that's the hard part. So I think that's the hard part,
Yeah.
and I agree with that. It's like genie's out the bottle, you can't put the genie back in.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difficulty. But in the interests of this game we all love, I think people have to sit together and sort of arrive at something.
Yeah, maybe you're right. And so I would like, if that's the case, but I still want the priority to be internationals.
Internationals, yeah.
So have the windows for internationals, and then dot your your franchise competitions around that, not the other way around.
Right. Okay.
You could talk on this for hours and hours and still get nowhere, couldn't you?
Yeah. So thoughts are thoughts. I mean, you'd still have to kind of justify how you would do it and kind of find a way, find a method. How would you pay for this? How would you? Because essentially, at the end of it, it's going to be the money that talks.
Yes.
So, such is life. We should finish off, really, because we have to go and get ready for work. Parting shot. How hard, how easy is it to entice young cricketers, young people, to the game of cricket in Australia? And in light of what we just spoke about, franchise, international, the fact that it's lucrative to be a franchise player. You don't necessarily have to play for Australia. How does that
as a
dynamic
player or
play?
a spectator? You talk
As a player.
Well, I think you have to have your best players available to be playing in your franchise competition, but what we've got in Australia at the moment is we're robbing Peter to pay Paul at times,
Right.
because we've got our flagship domestic competition in the Big Bash
Yeah.
running at the same time as our international calendar, and there's not a real lot of room for compromise in that regard as well. So then you've got people, and tickets are expensive to attract people to the game physically.
Yeah.
But I think the numbers and what Cricket Australia and the franchises and the states are all doing around the game in terms of the funding into grassroots cricket, into women's cricket, into facilities, is awesome, because that's giving kids the best opportunity
Right.
to develop early and fall in love with the game, whether that's through junior clinics and it's called T20. There is a sponsor, but I don't know which sponsor it is at the moment. It's like for 6-year-olds that they come and they just smack it around, they have fun, but then they're in a system.
Right.
And then from there they'll go to a club
Right.
and fall in love with the game. And then once you're a part of a club, it's hard to get out,
Yeah.
because
You enjoy going there.
you enjoy going
Yeah.
there. It becomes a really family-orientated thing as well. So then you've got the deep-rooted love for the game from such a young age, and I think we're doing that really well. And then it comes down to the competition between sports. And with so many sports available now for the people love, because there's so much more entertainment on TV. There's so much more access to watch them online, anytime, on demand. You've got huge numbers in football, cricket, soccer,
Right.
basketball, like tennis. The numbers are huge. So finding the connection to the game at such a young age is really important.
I suppose it doesn't matter what game it is they play, just play something.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for this.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
I've got a bit of homework to do.
We'll do another one at some point. I might have to ask you for method with regard to winning World Cups. Yeah, for you to kind of outline that. I don't know if he'll want to for other teams. He doesn't want them to win it. Oh,
No one's asked me about it. So.
yeah. Okay. Well, I will ask. How do you win a World Cup? It's a very good question, and you might have an answer, right? Here's to Pina Coladas on the beach in Barbados.
That's it.
Yeah.
Cheers.